Hey everybody, so I'm jumping right on into this video. I have my nails already prepped with my Not Polished XXX Bond and my Lisette Gel Nails Rubber Base Gel. I am doing a fill today, so I'm using a size 6 Kolinsky brush from Amazon. And for my acrylics, I'm using OG 102 Nude Panther and OG number 1, which is the clear from Not Polished as well. And I'm going to fill my nude nails with the Nude Panther shade, and I'm going to go ahead and fill any nails that have colored acrylic as the base with that clear. Since I'm not going to use that colored acrylic as my background color for this set, I don't have to worry about filling it with the same colored acrylic. I can go ahead with a nude or a clear just to make it easier on myself. So that's what I'm doing. I am going to rebalance some of these because I do feel like some of my nails ended up being filed a little thinner than I would like during the last set. So I'm just going to kind of rebalance and apply a little bit more structure to all of these nails, fill in any gaps, and just try to make it as perfected as I can. Again, I don't do any specific method. I just use the same amount of beads as I need to be able to get the desired effect that I want. And when you're doing nails on yourself, fills tend to be a little bit easier and quicker. I mean, they're quicker on other people, but for myself, if I can get away with not having to remove a nail, like as you see here, and I can just fill it in with a clear or another color and just use my design topically, it's just going to make it easier for me overall. So it saves me time and product not having to fully remove all of this colored acrylic and then rebuild that nail from scratch. So that is what I'm doing. Today I wanted to do a topical design because I want to do another character art, like hand painted design. So that's what I'm going to do today. So really all I'm doing right now is just trying to perfect my shape so that I can go in with that design work and have it be smooth and nice over top. So I'm going to fill all of these nails, let that acrylic dry. Sometimes when you're doing a fill, you do have to wait just a little bit before you start filing because you're not applying as much acrylic. So the acrylic powder actually doesn't dry as fast as it would if you were doing a full set. So just give it a little bit of time and then go ahead and just start filing and buffing and shaping your nails, which I will show you in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do my filing routine right now. I start off typically by taking a fine carbide bit. I use this to kind of debulk the nail and just seal the cuticle. I don't use a coarse bit when I'm doing this process because I typically don't have a whole lot of acrylic that I need to remove. If I was doing a actual removal, I would use a coarse bit and then I would raise the speed of my drill. For this, I go anywhere from 10 to 15,000 RPMs and I use a fine grit carbide bit and I just go ahead and just smooth over that top layer, really just trying to take any excess bulk that I have. But again, if you're very particular with your application, you don't have a whole lot that you need to remove, so it's just easier to use the drill at a lower speed and not have as like harsh of a grit file so that you don't have to worry about chunking out the nail and then needing to reapply the acrylic. Once you're done with that, you can go ahead and start really perfecting the shape with a hand file. This is just kind of a no-name brand file that I got. It's 100 grit. I use that to really shape my edges and file over the surface of the nail to kind of take out any really harsh scratches, as well as to again really perfect that cuticle area. I do go in with a medium grit sanding band and I just go over the surface of the nail and the cuticle area with my drill again. This I typically do anywhere anywhere from 5 to 7,000 RPMs depending on which nail file I'm using, just because some are a little bit more powerful and you don't need to use them at super high speeds. Now I'm gonna go in with my Valentino Beauty Pure Gel Polish. This is in number 147. This is going to be the base and background color for my entire set. So I'm going to do 2 layers of this on all of my nails and cure in between each layer. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just top coat my thumb and my pinky with the Kiara Sky No White top coat. I'm not doing any design work on these 2 nails, so just to protect them while I'm working on the other ones, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Now I'm gonna use a couple Michaels paints. These are acrylic paints to do my character hand painting design. Now I don't really have a rhyme or reason for how I do my color palette and paint mixing, so I didn't really show that. I kind of just look at my reference photos and just try to mix colors together until I get something similar to what I'm trying to go for. So again, there's really no rhyme or reason. I'm not the best at color theory or any of that. I just kind of play around and see what works for me. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and start off by building his head. If you couldn't tell by the title, I am doing Sam from the movie Trick or Treat. I've actually never seen this movie. It is on my list to watch for Halloween this year, so if you do like this movie, don't spoil it for me in the comments, but you can let me know down below if this is one of your Halloween faves to watch every year. So I am pretty much, I will link my reference photo down below, but I pretty much kind of start off with doing my general shapes and then I worry about adding in details after. For me, I find it's just the easiest way to get the effects that I want. So I'm starting off by just kind of outlining what his head shape is going to be, and then kind of his neck collar, I'm going to outline that as well. And you kind of just have to play around with this and see what works for you. If you watched my Pokemon hand painting tutorial, I actually drew out the design before I went in with the paints. I didn't find that that was easier for me, but for some people they do feel like that's helpful because they have kind of their full design outlined before they even go in with any paints. For me, this way is easier by just kind of color blocking. So I basically look at my reference photo and kind of break it up into layers. So any large shapes, so heads, bodies, arms, feet, anything like that, I go ahead and do first, and then I worry about those finer details, like the details on his face or the details on his clothing. So those are the things that are helpful to me when I'm doing my designs. The other thing is, because this is acrylic paint, it's easy for you to kind of wipe it away before it dries. So if you do have any mistakes, you can go ahead and just take a small brush with some water and you can typically kind of smudge it out and kind of erase it before you go in and finish up your design. The other thing that you can do is you can let each layer dry, and then if you had a mistake, once that layer is dry, you can just basically paint over top of it to kind of erase it. So for example, right now I'm using a dark brown to kind of create the details in his face. There were occasions as I was adding more and more details to his face that I felt like I just kind of overdid it and I needed to kind of backtrack a bit. You can see me kind of doing some of that here. I just go back in with the kind of head color, that tan shade, and I go over top of that dark brown just to kind of erase it and smudge it out. This works really well with acrylic paints. You do have to worry slightly about not having your layers be too thick. So if you give it a couple seconds or a minute or two in between layers, that will be helpful because the paint will have time to dry down and you won't have to do as thick of a layer over top to kind of hide any of the mistakes that you make. Once I'm done with kind of creating those little details in his face, I do go in with a black and I kind of start outlining it. Since the reference photo I have does show some black outline to him, I am going to do that, and I do basically water down the paints if I want to do shading. So right now I'm kind of shading some little areas on his face where it's not necessarily like a shape or an outline that I have to worry about, but more or less like a different shade of coloring. So the way that I do that is I take a small amount of paint, mix it with a little bit of water, and it will allow me to get a very thin application of that paint. And because of that, it'll kind of create that shading, or if you do like makeup, when you contour your face or highlight your face, it's gonna help giving that effect. So if I want a very opaque color, I will go in with just the paint by itself. If I want the paint color to be a lot more like thin and sheer, or I just want to kind of create a shadow, I will thin it out with some water. Now, also, as you're doing this, because you are doing such a small area, your brush can kind of start to get clogged. Since this isn't a gel product, it will dry with contact with air. So if you're noticing that the paint is starting to thicken up on you, just kind of wipe your brush off, dip it in some water and kind of wipe it on a paper towel, and then go back in with that paint. As the paint dries, it will start to get thick and it'll make it harder for you to get fine details. So throughout this process, if I was noticing that was happening, I would just wipe my brush off and kind of start from scratch. As I go through and do all these little details, I do every now and then take a step back to regain perspective. When you're doing very small painting, you actually tend to almost look at the design like it's under a microscope, and that is not how the average person is going to see your nails. They are going to see it from afar, so some of the small details that you add in are not going to make a difference to the overall design, while others may actually make a huge impact. So as you go through, add a little detail or two, and then step back, look at your nails from afar, and see if there's things that you need to add or change or adjust so that they overall get the design and look that you're going for, without you having to fuss over things that may not impact the design overall when you're done. So that is just kind of my little tip when you're doing something like this. When you're done with your character, you can go on and move on to your other design work. Here I'm doing some lettering. I probably would recommend, if you're doing lettering, to outline your letters with like a pencil or something first, to really make sure that you know where your placement is going to be. I'm not very good at lettering, so I don't know how to do any like different fonts or things like that. I also am just really struggle, honestly, with trying to get the placement of my wording. So when I did this, I did have to wipe it off and redo it a couple of different times. So if you go ahead and just outline where you want the letters to be ahead of time, when you go in with your paint, you don't have to worry about messing it up or not having enough space, and then having to try to squeeze letters together and just kind of distorting them. So it's going to be easier to just preemptively draw them out and trace them over with the paint. So once you're done with that, I'm going to go ahead with the McCart Rhinestone Gel Glue. This is actually not my favorite one. I know a lot of people like it, but it's almost like too runny for me. I feel like as I try to place my gems, it almost just kind of slips and slides on top of it. I do really like the Lisette Gel Nails one, but I am trying to use this one up, so this is the one that I used today. And because it does move very easily, I do go in and just flash cure it, just to make sure that the gems don't move from where I place them. And I was really struggling with what I was wanting to do on the other nails. I ended up using some stamping plates, which, as you see in the next clip, I am doing some lettering with the stamping plates. I'm kind of just doing the same wording that I have on my character painted finger, and just kind of redoing that on my ring finger. But you'll probably be able to tell that because it's a stamping plate design, it's very crisp and I don't have to worry about messing up the lettering or spacing. So if you do have stamping plates, I find that they're easier to do lettering with. If you have ones like this that have a word or a phrase already done, or you can find ones that you can just stamp on individual letters so that you can basically create your own words or phrases, those would work as well. So whatever works for you and is easiest for you to do, go ahead and do that, or you can do just more hand painted designs on this nail if you prefer. But this I felt was easier and I like the way it came together. Once I'm done with that, I just go ahead with my Not Polished Gloss It Gel Top Coat, and I just top coat all of my nails. As you can see, it really kind of smooths out the character painting. You do want to make sure, like I said earlier, that your acrylic paint is fully dry before you do this though. Other than that, that is pretty much it for this look. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Comment below letting me know what you guys thought and what other characters you think I should try next. Thumbs this video up if you enjoyed it, and want to see more from me, as well as subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot. I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.